Definitely setting those limits, setting expectations. Here's how much time you might be on the screen if it's a school related activity. And then how does that limit or increase then how much time you might have on it for personal exploration, right? And again, setting expectations and limits around what that is and what that looks like. And just being mindful, because as valuable as sometimes these tools can be, equally valuable is getting out a book. Equally valuable is talking with your family at the dinner table. So having clear expectations around when it can be used, for what, and for how much time.
We are now onto the Superintendent Spotlight. This is a round robin style where we're going to address parent questions that we get. A couple million people a year are visiting smartsocial.com to learn about our 54 plus live events, our 450 resources, our 12 different languages. We're really big in English, in Espanol, in Mandarin, and most other languages that are really big in the US. These clips help a lot of parents. We're going to ask each superintendent to give us a 1 minute or less answer, and we're going to dive right on in.
Hello, my name is Pacino. I'm the superintendent of Corcoran Joint Unified School District in sunny Central California. We're a rural school district of 3,300 students and 7 schools.
Hello, I'm Kirk Shrum. I'm superintendent of Visalia Unified School District. We're in the Central Valley of California. We have about 32,000 students spread across 42 school sites.
So first, we're going to talk a little bit about disappearing messages. My question for Superintendent Shrum, what are the main risks and dangers associated with disappearing messages that parents should be aware of?
Sure, I think one of the main risks is students being told or exposed to something that a parent has no knowledge of. And so that parent's ability to help a student navigate whatever issue that may be or whatever item it is that they've heard becomes very limited. And so it's a key danger in if a message directly relates to something that child may be asked to do that has a direct impact on their safety.
Yeah, so true.
I would just say the only other thing that I would echo what Superintendent Shrum said, and just that nothing really disappears. So I think students think that they might put something on Snapchat or some other type of chat message group that eliminates it, but it actually can be recorded, screenshot, whatever. And that's something that they don't necessarily realize.
Yeah, so well said. Let's dive into the next one. Superintendent Pacina, I want to ask you, how can parents start a conversation with their child about the risks of using disappearing messages?
Yeah, I think the first thing is for parents to begin to educate themselves around what are disappearing messages and what type of apps are out there that are creating those. And then also just reiterating with their students, their child, that nothing's really ever disappearing in the internet or chat or an app. And so that stays around forever. Once it's on the internet, it's there in some way, shape, or form for eternity.
Yeah, absolutely. And Superintendent Shrum, what is your suggestion? Do you have any examples of a situation where disappearing messages maybe created an issue that's impacted a student's life?
Sure. Well, I think this happens quite frequently. I won't speak to a specific example, but just globally, a lot of times, whether it's a threat or directed holistically or at individual students, and then that causes a conflict, right, which directly relates to safety, either of a student or of a school or of a larger population. But then the ability to investigate and really get down to the bottom of what really happened and how do we prevent it again is very limited because we might not be able to find that information. If it wasn't screenshotted or some other way, then we're just left trying to put the pieces together. And so that happens more often than not in a lot of these threats and other things that happen, not only between students and their interpersonal relationships, but also globally when you think about school safety and all of those items.
And I'm going to add to that for both of you, since we've had hundreds of these conversations, we are seeing a trend where sometimes students think it's funny or it's okay to bully another student, and it may even be detrimental to the safety of the school. Hey, don't come to school next week because this big thing might happen. And it's very scary. Somebody will screenshot it. The police will immediately find out. An underage kid is then arrested, taken in. The family is then somewhat liable or scared. My kid didn't mean it, but it is an absolute school threat. We see this all the time. And then guess what? It can ruin the kid's Google results. Why is that? Because it could be on the news. It could be released. Hey, this student is now released because it was a light threat, but that student's name online forever. So parents who are watching this right now, that harmless thing that you didn't know to talk to your kid about can absolutely disadvantage them in the future from what Smart Social calls shining online. So important. The disappearing messages can actually give us this false sense of power that can absolutely hurt us. That's just a little bit of an example nationwide that we're seeing. Superintendent superintendents? Did I get that wrong? Do you have any added value do you want to add?
No, I just want to say that that is spot on, and that is being played out in every single one of our districts multiple times a week. And so I just can't reiterate that message enough of what this is doing to potential students currently, but not only their future. And to your point, these students are being arrested. It is being publicized in many states, and it has a direct impact on their future and the safety of everyone involved. And so we always say, report, don't repost when you see these things pop up on social media.
That's an absolute pro tip. I love that. Report, don't repost. Okay, terrific. Let's dive into the next question I have for you, gentlemen. So let's talk a little bit about screen time. What are your tips that parents can do to better manage screen time at home? Superintendent Pacina, I'd like to start with you.
Yeah, no, definitely. So on a personal level, it really takes time to set those boundaries with your kids. And I think kind of understanding what are they actually using their screen time for. So making sure that is it, 70% of their time is because the school is requiring them to do at-home homework on the screen versus 30% of the time is entertainment, games, those type of things, right? So I think, again, it's conversation, it's talking to parents, talking to their kids to see what is it they're actually having to do with their screen time. And then at that point, it's providing some guidance and some direction, as simple as you only have your device from 4 to 6, right? And that's learning. And then from 6 to 7 is going to be entertainment. I know some families might look at a thing like Bark or some other kind of app that would limit the screen time. So there's different ways that a parent could do it. They can do it as non-intrusively as just talking and creating a boundary, or they can put an app on the device and then be able to monitor the screen time and then regulate it that way.
Absolutely. Superintendent Shrum, I'd like to get your insight on this. What are your tips that parents can do to better manage screen time at home?
So again, definitely setting those limits, setting expectations. Here's how much time you might be on the screen if it's a school-related activity. And then how does that limit or increase then how much time you might have on it for personal exploration, right? And again, setting expectations and limits around what that is and what that looks like. And just being mindful, because as valuable as sometimes these tools can be, equally valuable is getting out a book. Equally valuable is talking with your family at the dinner table. So having clear expectations around when it can be used, for what, and for how much time.
Yeah, excellent advice. Superintendent Shrum, what is your advice to parents and students to avoid talking to strangers and avoid dangerous situations online?
Sure. Well, I think one thing, many apps, many games, the video games, I think parents may not even realize students, their kids are actually having conversations online with strangers, right? So the first is just awareness of what are the apps or what are the games or what are the opportunities my child has for that interaction first. Secondly, then again, setting those expectations about what it's okay to talk about if it's related to the game. But then what are some things you might hear or be asked that start to tread into, oh, this might not be game related. This might be something else. And making sure there's a good relationship at home so that your child feels comfortable coming to you. Maybe they've gotten in a situation they weren't prepared for. And do you have an open dialogue and conversation in your home so that your child feels comfortable coming to you saying, I made a mistake, or I just encountered something that made me feel uncomfortable. And so then as a parent, as a family, and as a child, you can work through that together.
Excellent advice. Superintendent Pacina, can you give us your advice on these strangers and dangerous situations as well?
Yeah, no, I agree with Superintendent Shrum, and just communication and really creating a place or a safe space where students can talk to you about what they're encountering. Because other than the fact that you're going to have the student sitting right next to you and you're going to be looking over their shoulder the entire time they're playing a game, which is not realistic, there has to be skills that we teach them, just like we would if they're walking down the street. Someone you don't know is chatting with you. What is it they're actually asking for? And I would say the only other thing in addition to that is not only what they're saying, but what are they delivering? So, there's some chat device in the games where they're uploading links that actually will take them away from that game into some potentially risky situation. So also reminding your kids that go to trusted links with your trusted friends or those that you know.
Yeah, well said. Okay, let's dive on into video games. Superintendent Shrum, what is your advice to parents and teens about video game safety and managing video game screen time?
Yeah, so I think they go hand in hand. One, again, it's about setting limits and expectations. Our students, to be successful in school, you need a good night's sleep. So if you're staying up till 1, 2, 3 in the morning playing an interactive game, then you're not going to be prepared for school. And then secondly, again, oftentimes those conversations online, you don't know who you're actually talking to. So you always have to be on guard and aware and make sure if you are having conversations that it's about the game, that it's about getting to the next level, that it's about those things. And anything that starts to veer from that, then again, you've got open dialogue and a good relationship with your family. You were taught to be aware and on the lookout for that. And then you're taught to disengage and or report when some things start to become suspicious. And really it's about, video games create a family atmosphere. So it also is about that online family being committed to certain norms that we're all going to respect, because you could be playing a video game with someone who's 10 or someone who's 50, right? And so being aware of those things.
Yeah, very wise. Superintendent Pacina, what is your advice to parents about video games, screen time, safety, and making sure we manage it?
Yeah, I would say the same. It's like we talked about before. It's really setting those boundaries, communicating with them understanding what are a potential risk when talking to folks on video games, or, how much screen time are they actually engaged in the game itself. And I know we're talking about teens, but also I would even say younger age children. It's having that conversation just like we would with a movie or anything else, any other sort of medium, is the distinction between reality and what they see in a game. Because sometimes we see that play out on the playground. Hey, I saw this, I was doing this in the video game, and it doesn't necessarily relate in real life and actually has repercussions in the way that they behave. And so I think it's also parents having those conversations, again, really just talking to them about what the distinctions are.
Yeah, well said. Superintendent Shrum, what is your advice to parents about the impact that screen time can have on lowering motivation on everything else that's important in a teen's life?
When you see video games and those sorts of things, students want to be on them, kids want to be on it because it's giving them instant gratification. It's giving them instant feedback. And so that's taking the place of other things where we used to get it from, right? Playing with kids or doing a chore and receiving praise or feedback from a parent or an authority figure. That is now not motivating. And so students want to live in this world where these things are happening. And so we have to be very mindful that there are good qualities to some of these things, but there are also very addictive qualities as well. And so if students start to spend increasing amounts of time on the screen, that's coming at the expense of doing things like chores or doing things like spending time with your siblings or your family. And so it goes back to, again, setting those limits and finding other ways to motivate students and kids so that they receive satisfaction from doing a chore, that they receive satisfaction from spending some quality time with their family. And it's not just coming from being on the screen.
So well said. Superintendent Pacina, what would your advice be to parents who see that their students have a lack of motivation and students want to fill that time with screens, but can they build up motivation in kids to do the things that are important for a social life, chores, and homework?
Yeah, I think the first thing is, and I'm dealing with this right now with teenagers, is really getting to communicate with them and find out what are they so drawn to on the screen, and what is it that's replacing that motivation to do a chore or to have a conversation with each other as siblings, right? So what are those things that are actually taking that time? And also setting boundaries. Again, we're going to have screen time for 2 hours a day, and then we're going to have some time set aside for chores. I know some restaurants where they say no cell phones at the table. I know a lot of families that do that. And so just being able to set those boundaries, so then you have that opportunity to engage like we're doing right now, right? Having meaningful conversation. And really, again, talking to your teens, what is it that's motivating them? That's a way in to get connected with them.
Absolutely. Excellent. Superintendents, I want to thank both of you for being here. Those of you watching right now, for our school district partners, thank you so much. You get 54 plus live parent events that we host in multiple languages, live online with incredible replays. You have teen-led video lessons because some of our content is designed for teens by teens. That's how we're finding that we're able to engage the teens, because the rest of us are a little bit uncool because we're a little outside of college, and the teens love hearing from their peers. And then last, an incredible premium parent newsletter with lots of pre-made social media content that school districts are using. We have content all the time, every single month. Gone are the days, school districts, gone are the days of a parent saying to us, oh no, the TikTok social media safety night that came to my school district was last week and I missed it. I guess I'll let my daughter, who's 11, and be on TikTok for the rest of the year, and I'll go to next year's event and I'll try and attend that one. No, we have another one next week. We have a replay of yesterday's in English, Espanol, Mandarin, you name the language. No one's left behind, and it is world-class teachers in the program, which we're so proud of, like our incredible superintendents here today. So gone are those days. Parents are raving about it. We're grateful for everyone who is working to make Smart Social the best at what we do. Superintendents, I want to thank you for letting us spotlight you and addressing parent questions. You both have been absolutely terrific. Thanks for joining us here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For the rest of you watching, you can learn more at smartsocial.com, where we listen to thousands of people every single month to learn what they're going through so that we can create resources that keep your kids safe on social media so your kids can be successful and someday shine online past the age of 16 to get that dream college, career, vocation, and anything else. I'm Josh Oakes, the founder of smartsocial.com. We'll see all of you on the next episode. Have a great rest of the day. Take care.